On this episode of Locked On Lightning, we're talking about how are we feeling about this Lightning team 6 games into the season, still relatively early. Are we overreacting or are we underreacting? We talk about that and more, as well as this tonight's showdown against the Los Angeles Kings. We'll talk about that. But first, as always, let's play that music.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Danker. I want to thank all of you for making us your first listen on today's show, as well as if you're watching us on YouTube. Thank you for the watch. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification button, as well as follow us and subscribe wherever you follow us, whether that be on an audio platform and listen there, or, of course, on our YouTube channel. On this episode of Locked On Lightning, we are discussing too early to tell thoughts. Now, maybe some Lightning fans like me are kind of struggling with our feelings through the first 6 games. We talk about that. And then we also look at, this tonight's very late night matchup against the Los Angeles Kings. The Lightning kick off their 3-game road trip on the West Coast. Not the best coast. They will get a 10:30 start tonight. Not entirely happy about that, but it gets better, 10 o'clock tomorrow against the Ducks, and then Saturday, 4:30 start. So a little better, I guess. So starting off, because I feel like a lot of Lightning fans and hockey fans and even sports fans, we get so excited about the beginning of seasons when our teams start, and then especially if the expectations are maybe very high. Now, I don't know, I'm not going to have a take on what the general expectation was across the realm of Lightning Nation, because, I'm not going to speak for every Lightning fan. Every Lightning fan has their own opinion about this team, and that's great. That's what I love most about hearing from all of you on social media, hearing from all of you on Instagram, whether it be through my personal account on Twitter or through the show's personal account on Twitter. I love hearing all the feedback, all the different points of perspective. There are some fans that are out there that felt like this team should be back in the Stanley Cup final, no questions asked. And then there's other fans that are like, I don't know, I think we're just going to fall short of getting back to the Eastern Conference final. And I think I'm sort of in the middle of that. I feel like this team is still very talented. If you've been listening to shows from the summer or watching shows from the summer, if you haven't, please go ahead and watch so you can kind of get caught up. But I felt like I was kind of in the middle of that. I don't think there was any Lightning fan that was really expecting this team to be really, really bad. When I say that, I mean in terms of overall expectations that we have on a yearly basis for Tampa. It's obviously playoffs and then deep run, possible potential Stanley Cup final. I think that's really where we're at as a whole for the most part. If you had to survey every Lightning fan as well as every hockey fan, I think that's where everybody kind of is. I've kind of been like this the last couple of years, and I still, maybe I'm not as confident about the end result here as I normally am, but I still think this team is very talented. I still think overall that they should contend for at least the division title. Now, the conference, I'm not too crazy about. I mean, if they end up finishing in the top 3 of the Eastern Conference, that's great. That's wonderful. Doesn't really matter to me. I mean, if they finish 1 or 2 is what I mean. But, outside of that, I'm completely fine. if they win the division, that's great. I prefer this team just to save whatever gas they have in the tank for the playoffs, just empty it out there. Um, make a quick round of it in in round one of the playoffs, which is why looking back at it, kind of wish, not going to get into this whole thing, but kind of just a side note here, kind of wish that the results were switched, for the sweep, obviously, of coming of Florida in the second round, for that to have come into the first round against Toronto. But listen, winners, we can't beg. We can't pick and choose when this team, they made a deep run, they got back to Stanley Cup final, they just didn't have it. But getting back to my point, I feel like this team this year, they're, at least for me and the handful of Lightning fans, and if you want to talk to me about the Lightning, please go ahead and reach out to the show. Reach out to my social media account at DenkyDank, DENKYT8NK on Twitter. Love hearing from all of you. I usually try to get back to you all as soon as possible. Sometimes I just get caught up with, life and everything, and, making sure we are putting together a great show for you all here at Locked On Lightning. But yeah, I try to get back to you all as soon as possible, especially if you tweet to me. So yeah, I feel like for me at least, this team, it was playoffs, deep run, and then at least get back to the Eastern Conference final. And this is just without even thinking about potential moves that may or may not be made over the course of the season, especially the trade deadline, because I feel like at this point now, we're just all expecting that big move that Julien Brisebois has just made on every year. The first, if you want to see the whole chronicle of this whole show, go ahead and listen to episode 1. And then just follow us to the episode where, we're talking about the deadline, Blake Coleman trade, Barclay Goodrow, all that fun stuff. Love to reminisce. But I feel like this team, the expectations for me at least, and I want to hear from all of you, whether it be on Twitter or in the comments below on Instagram, is that I feel like so far, so good through 6 games. Yes, I made a big deal in the last episode about this team getting to 500. All things considered, when you look at what the schedule was thus far this year, and really, to be quite frank, the mediocre play that's been coming from this team thus far, and like I've said in every single episode, really no surprise when it goes bad for the Lightning. It's not something that is coming out of the woods or out of left field. You kind of, if the Lightning are not executing on something or making mistakes on another thing, it's kind of like, all right, we kind of saw this coming. We're just trying to get the water out of the boat, and then we'll fix that hole later on afterwards. And that's kind of what it's been with these last couple of seasons, and then you've kind of seen it in full force over the first couple 6 games, as well as the 3 losses, especially the only game I'll give the other team credit, and the Lightning for the most part played a very solid game as well, is the first game of the season against the Rangers. So not going to kill them on that, like I said, but that game against Pittsburgh. So thus far, I think that Tampa has played a very solid season, solid game for the most part. Yeah, there were certain instances in which I was really not happy, like losing to Philly on opening night at home. Really less than ideal start to the season at home, at least. Obviously the season already started, but I feel like your second season starts, when you hit opening night on your home ice, and then obviously your third season is the playoffs. But I guess it could be better. Obviously, it could always be better. I think if we could turn back time and maybe turn some things around. I mean, listen, going up against Pittsburgh, the Lightning always have, for some reason, obviously, it's Sidney Crosby and company, Guy's 35 and he's having a phenomenal start to the season. But I guess the only game where I could be like, should have won that was probably Philly. Other than that, I think that thus far, considering what kind of state of mind at least I was in about this team after opening night, and I spoke about it on the last episode, and I spoke about it going into the episode with Florida. I was very adamant in saying that that was the biggest game of the season, a must win at that point in the season. But really, if I had to even grade myself on my reaction and how I feel about this team right now, 1 through 5, 1 being totally down to the dumps, 5 being overly confident and happy. I'm going to say and this might be, I'm going to say 3.5. I'm iffy. I'm indifferent about it. I'm completely fine, but I'm not okay with it. If that makes sense to my listeners and to people watching on YouTube, let us know down below how you feel about the season thus far. And am I overreacting in a way? Maybe in a month or so. Maybe if the Lightning continue to build on their 2 big wins, and yes, they were big wins, especially against Florida in overtime last Friday. And then if the Lightning, which I completely think that, they should win at least 2 out of 3 here on the West Coast. If the Lightning could do that, and we look back on a month now and they really carry that into the end of November, I am going to be the first one to say that I was overreacting. So we'll check back in on that take later. I would say probably the end of November. Let's check back in on a month, see how the Lightning are doing. We'll go from there. But coming up, we're going to be talking about tonight's game against the Kings. Don't forget to watch that. Please don't turn this off. Stay on. Listen. Get yourself ready. Brew that hot coffee because it's going to be a late night for all Lightning fans involved. But first, I want to talk about our friends from Athletic Greens. Now, I use this thing, there's a lot of, whether it be on podcasts or TV shows or wherever, there's people that say, I use this product. I'm here to tell you, I literally use this product. It's the first thing I use every single day. And that is Athletic Greens. There are days when I forget to use it or I forget to get up, put the protein powder, do my whole routine, and I just feel out of whack. I don't feel me. And I used it this morning. I made a point to use it this morning after I forgot to use it yesterday, and it was phenomenal. So what is this stuff, you might be asking? Well, with 1 delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, and this is very important because it improves your gut health. Now, I've been on Athletic Greens for a couple of months now, and I absolutely love it. And it doesn't taste like it's super healthy. It has kind of a mild tropical taste that I actually look forward to every morning. Like I said, I start my morning with this every day. It helps my digestion, helps my energy, and everything that you could possibly need to get your day started before you start downing food, start drinking coffee, whatever you need. So, and I love it because, I get to talk to people about it, and it's good for everyone, and it's lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, it contains 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemical or artificial taste. So to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you 1 year free supply of immunosupporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com /NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, so want to thank everybody once again for making us your first listen of the day, your one-stop shop for everything Lightning hockey. And you could continue to help us grow here. The show has absolutely exploded on YouTube over the last, I think we started in June. So we're nearing on 400 subscribers on YouTube. So please go ahead, subscribe to the show. The more you subscribe, the more the word gets out there, the more that helps the algorithm on YouTube, and your friends, your family, people you don't even know who are Lightning fans get find out about us, and as well as Go on our social media pages at @L_Lightning on Twitter, as well as Locked_On_Lightning on Instagram. Once again, go give me a follow at DankyDank, DENKYD8NK. Love hearing from all of you. Like I said, you tweet to me during a game or after a game or before a show. You want me to answer a question. I really want to start doing mailbags, and I could only do that if you guys and girls reach out and let me know with your questions. So looking at tonight's game, excuse me. I'm definitely going to need some coffee after this. But like I said, Lightning make their first West Coast trip of the season. And they come into this, like I said before, 3-3 at 500. Really, in the grand scheme of things for this team, all in a day's work, really just very routine, pedestrian record in terms of winning percentage at this point in the season. And you come and compare these two teams, and I stated on the last episode, this is going to be an interesting road trip for Tampa because they are going to be going up against, especially these first two games, two goaltenders who, some might think are probably at the end of their careers, which, I would probably agree with you, but are still talented enough and do show sparks from time to time that if you don't come ready, you don't come prepared, you could very well get shut out. And who I'm talking about here is Jonathan Quick, who I just grew up watching Jonathan Quick play for Team USA, as well as winning those 2 cups with the Kings, what he did. And, getting to see him suit up against Vasilevsky, you kind of see the new generation against the old generation. And, even though the numbers may not be as good as what they used to be back in the day for Jonathan Quick, like I said, he has that potential to make you miserable if you don't show up and play. You don't act accordingly on the ice. And so really, the Lightning, like I said, and like I've always, to a certain degree, overstated, they need to do a better job of coming out and really forcing the issue, really taking control of the game. And in a game like this against a young, in my opinion, I think, young Kings team, and there's obviously they have drastically improved over the last couple of seasons. Kudos to them. So they are a very good hockey team as well. So players to watch out for are the Kings. Obviously, the captain, Anze Kopitar, and then you have free agent signing. I believe it was a free agent signing, if I'm not mistaken, or he was a sign and trade. Kevin Fiala, who, as we all know, was with Minnesota last year. And then Philip Deneau, you may remember him from the Stanley Cup final a couple of years ago against Montreal. And then, of course, the big name that everybody talks about is Quentin Byfield. And I'm going to throw another player in there as well, just because I already know he's going to be a headache. Very curious to see how he does on the ice. And he's not going to be really making more than just being a headache and trying to force penalties, and the Lightning try to get them into precarious situations on the PK. That is Brandon Lemieux, because he's an agitator, and he reminds me very much of a Ryan Lomberg from a couple of years back. And then obviously the defensive pairings I'm not going to get into because I'm not overly crazy about this. The one name that Lightning fans may recognize, and really, quite frank, one of the worst contracts in the National Hockey League right now is Drew Doughty. So, but really looking at those forward lines, I'm going to be curious to see how this Lightning defense and how well the Lightning, well, not really, they need to take care of the puck in the neutral zone, because with this offensive attack, especially that first line with Fiala, Kopitar, and Kemp, it's going to be, regardless of how you feel about those 3 names and what comes afterwards, still going to be a task for Tampa. And like I said, I think that the Kings are, I don't think they're one of the best teams in the league. I still think they're a team that you need to take seriously. Right now, they sit at 3-4. That's 5th in the Pacific Division, which is a very tough decision if you're counting Edmonton, Calgary, and Vegas, not even getting the start that Seattle's had thus far, and then the teams below them who are kind of struggling to start the season. But the Lightning need to come out and really put their stamp on this game early on, because if they don't, like I said, they're going to make these players, these guys that really, like I said, aren't exactly on the level of especially the top two lines of this Tampa team. They're going to make them look like amateurs out there. And so that is why the forward lines need to take care of the puck. This team needs to take care of a puck overall, and they need to be able to protect Vasilevsky out there and not allow him to get peppered with shots early on, so he could get settled in, get in a groove, and shut these guys down, and so the Lightning could go to work and not have to worry about going up and down chasing the puck because they're turning over the puck every 5 seconds. So yeah, I'm excited for this game. It's one of those games where, you still don't know because it's early on in the season. Like I said, and this kind of ties in with what we spoke about earlier in the episode. Are we overreacting with this Lightning team? And I would have to say, check with me in a month, excuse me. But, I'm excited because, what I said could be 100% right about the Kings, and then they could come out and absolutely lay an egg and look like a team that had no business on the ice with the Lightning. So, one of those games where really I firmly believe that the Lightning will be the masters of their own destiny. So wrapping things up, and once again, thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel, as well as drop a like and do all that stuff. So as soon as the newest episode drops, you will be notified. Hit the notification bell, whether you're on an app or, like I said, on YouTube. Go ahead and hit the notification bell. So as soon as the newest episode drops, you will be notified. So this is I feel like a lot of people of fans of East Coast teams they just always dread West Coast trips. And like I said in the last episode, and I think I said it a couple of weeks ago when we were kind of doing a mini going over the schedule segment at some point. Maybe it was even during the summer, even it was prior to that. I always love these road trips, even if it's West Coast or, the trips to Western Canada. I love these because I feel like it really, especially it's a coin toss in terms of whether it's getting your team jump started. If they're struggling, it's one win, you string a couple of wins together and you're on top of the world and you're really rolling. Or you could go out there and it could completely ruin your week, especially if your team's going out there rolling and you kind of just, you go out there and you're not ready to play. So, really that's really the theme, I think, for a lot of Eastern Conference teams going out to the West Coast or Western Canada, is that, it's really a measure of grit, especially with the time zone as well. And the Lightning won't have to travel that far back out until the new year. So, it would be great for them, especially to kind of go out there with, kind of their chest bumped, and especially coming back from that road trip, because the Lightning have no easy tasks when they come back, because as soon as they come back home, their first home game is against Ottawa, and then they got Carolina and Buffalo and Edmonton. So, at the end of that little, homestead, you got Connor McDavid coming to your house. So, coming back from the West Coast, winning 2 out of 3, potentially 3 out of 3. I think that's going to really inject a lot of confidence into this hockey team. And you're really going to start to see a more confident hockey team out there, a more confident Tampa Bay Lightning team than what we're really used to, what we've seen over the last couple of years and in the playoffs. So, can't wait to see how this game turns out tonight. Hopefully ideally we get to see Vasilevsky's first shutout of the year. So fingers crossed. So, and we'll be back to talk about all of it on tomorrow's episode. So stay tuned for that. So that's been it for this episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Danker. I'll talk to you next one.